Hi, I'm Brian King, and this is another Marriage Monday. I was thinking about my first car. The reason it came up was one of my security questions was, what was the make and model of your first car? And I didn't even have to think about it. It was a Ford Custom 500. It was a former game warden's car. I bought it at a state auction for $500. And I drove that car back and forth to college for like 4 years and put a lot of miles on it and did a lot of work on it. I learned to change brakes. I learned to change plugs, points, condenser, plug wires, distributor cap, all the maintenance you used to have to do. And I was good at it. If anything broke, I could fix it. It was the rust that finally made it so I couldn't get another inspection sticker. But at the time when I got out of college, I'm also from the generation that got to experience for the first time gas costing more than $1 a gallon. That happened my senior year in high school. And by the time I got out of college, it was like $1.30 a gallon. And that may not sound like a lot, but at the same time, a dozen eggs was 87 cents and a cup of coffee was less than $1. So just saying, gas was expensive back then. And here I'd been driving this Ford Custom 500, 8-cylinder, and on a good day with the wind behind it going downhill, it might have got like 16 or 17 miles a gallon. And that was a good day. A friend of mine told me that he was going to sell his Subaru. Well, never had any experience with foreign cars before. Always had been either Ford or Chevy. And at that time, Subarus were pretty common, but a little different. So I bought it. It was a 5-speed, got about 35 miles a gallon, still going downhill with the wind behind it. But it was a good car. I had a lot of field trips planned. I was doing some cross-country driving, and I really needed something that would get me there and not break the bank putting gas in it. Drove that for a lot of years. It was a learning experience, though. Up until then, I think I might have had one metric tool, probably a 10 millimeter socket, and that was about it. Well, pretty much you need 10, 12, 13, 14, and 17, 19, and 23 to work on a Subaru. That was a learning experience. And I was probably a little foolish. I was also broke at the time, but I bought those things one at a time depending on what I needed to fix. So I slowly added to my tool collection. Again, I'm dating myself. Metric's very common nowadays. But back then, it was only on the foreign cars. Anyway, I had to learn a lot about Subarus because they were different. The brakes were different. They just did things different. Everything I had to learn. And it made me think about when I first got married. I had a lot of learning to do. Why? Because it was different. Things were not the same. I had to learn about this woman that I was now, living with, and she was different. And I was thinking, well, what was the biggest change and what was the most important tool I had to add to my toolbox? Well, I think I've narrowed it down to what my 10 millimeter socket was. It was listening. I had to learn to listen. And listening, you think you do it automatically? Well, you hear automatically. But to really listen, it's a new skill, especially when you're listening to the desires of a woman and what she wants and how to make her happy instead of just doing the things for her that make you happy and expecting her to enjoy it. It just doesn't work that way. She has a different set of needs, just like a Subaru has a different set of needs compared to a Ford. I know you can't take the analogy too far because it breaks down, but still you have to learn to listen. And a lot of times people say, well, if you're an active listener, it just means that you nod your head and agree with what the person's saying. That will get you in severe trouble if that's how you what you think listening is. The true way to tell if you're actually listening when you're talking to your wife, when you're listening, is whether or not it falls into the category of comprehension. Did you understand what she said? Because she is going to say things that don't agree with your normal way of thinking. She will tell you that she needs conversation. And you can hear that and not comprehend it. But conversation and communication is extremely important to her. And because it's extremely important to her, it's extremely important that you learn how to do it so that you can have a good marriage and then take it to the next level and have a great marriage. The way you can tell if you're really listening and comprehending is, do you change? Do you go out and buy the new set of tools that you need because you figured out you don't have what you need? Because that's what it comes down to. You have to learn a whole new set of things in order to be married. And that's not bad. That's just how it works. You need to adapt. You need to learn. When you listen, the best way to tell whether or not you're listening is, did you change? Because to be married, you will have to change. That's not a bad thing either. As a matter of fact, if you make those changes, you will have a happy wife. And if you have a happy wife, you will be happy too. It just works that way. Now, when I say change, what I mean is, like, for instance, my wife told me that she likes flowers. I was up in the air about flowers. I didn't care one way or another about flowers, but she told me she likes them. I heard that and made sure she got some flowers. She really enjoyed the flowers, so I got her more flowers. And over the years, I bought a lot of flowers, and it was something I didn't even know that I needed. How many flowers do I need? 0. I don't need flowers. Does she need flowers? No, she'll do just fine without flowers, but she likes them, so I get her flowers. It's very important. Do you know what your wife likes? And if you do you make sure she gets it? Could be that special cup of coffee she likes, could be a special dessert, could be something she collects. It doesn't matter. It just shows her that you listened, comprehended, and then made it happen. So think about it today. What are some of the things that maybe you used to do when you were dating? Some of the things that you know that are important to her? Have you been paying attention to them? If not, maybe it's time. Maybe you're great at this and that's not an issue. But I need to be reminded all the time. So that's your reminder for this week. Hope you have a great week. See you next week for Marriage Monday.